You're standing near a horse, totally relaxed, scratching its withers, and suddenly it lowers its head and exhales. You just became the leader without saying a word. Meanwhile, someone else approaches the same horse with predatory body language, staring, weight on both feet, tense posture, and the horse's head shoots up, ready to flee. You unconsciously communicated, "I'm not a threat." They unconsciously communicated, "I'm a predator." The horse read your body language in seconds and decided whether to trust or run. What makes horses' brains so specialized at detecting threat versus safety in human body language that they decide your status before you even touch them? Everything about how horses think traces back to one fundamental truth: flight equals survival. For roughly 6 million years, horses evolved on open grasslands as prey animals with zero natural weapons. No horns to gore with, no fangs to bite with, no poison to deploy. Just legs. Really, really fast legs. The horses that survived weren't the ones who stood their ground. They were the ones who bolted first and asked questions never. That ancient programming is still running in every horse you meet today. Here's something mind-blowing. Horses are actually brilliant animals, but we humans constantly misread their intelligence because we're predators trying to understand prey. We see a horse spook at a fluttering tarp and think, "stupid." But that's like calling a smoke detector stupid for going off when you burn toast. The horse's brain isn't malfunctioning. It's doing exactly what kept its ancestors alive. In their natural environment, horses rank exceptionally high in intelligence across multiple measures. In fact, they outperform every other domestic animal in several key areas. But you have to understand their survival strategy to appreciate how their smarts actually work. Let's start with their senses, because this is where horses are absolutely off the charts. Horses are the most perceptive domestic animals, period. And it makes perfect sense. If your survival depends on knowing when to run, you need world-class threat detection systems. Their visual perception is wild. Those eyes positioned on the sides of their heads give them monocular vision, which means they can turn their nose just an inch and suddenly have 360-degree vision. They can see what's sneaking up behind them while they're grazing. The trade-off? Their depth perception isn't great, which explains why horses hesitate at trailer ramps or stream crossings. They're not being difficult. They genuinely can't judge that depth as easily as you can. But it's not just vision. Their sense of smell, hearing, and touch are all extraordinarily sensitive. And that tactile sensitivity? That's what makes great horsemanship possible. A horse can feel the tiniest shift in your weight through a saddle and saddle blanket, a slight turn of your head, a tiny change in how you're sitting. The horse feels it all and responds accordingly. You're having a conversation through pressure and movement that happens mostly below your conscious awareness. Now here's where it gets really interesting. Horses have the fastest reaction time of any domestic animal, which makes total sense for a flight species, right? You don't survive as prey by thinking things over. You survive by moving now. But here's what that means for anyone working with horses. If a horse wants to kick you and you're in range, you're getting kicked. Doesn't matter how young you are or how athletic you think you are. You cannot move faster than a horse. Their nervous system beats yours every single time. But here's the flip side, and this is crucial. Horses are also the most easily desensitized domestic animals. They can get used to frightening stimuli incredibly fast if you present it correctly. Loud noises, chaotic visual stimulation, intense tactile contact. Horses can learn to ignore all of it, as long as it doesn't cause actual pain and you use the right technique. Why? Because if you're a flight animal, and every new sound or sight sent you running, and you didn't quickly learn, okay, that's harmless, you'd never stop fleeing. You'd have no time to eat, drink, rest, or mate. The ability to rapidly sort real threat from false alarm is a survival necessity. And this leads directly to possibly the most important thing you need to know. Horses are the fastest learners among all domestic animals. Faster than dogs, faster than cattle, pigs, sheep. The slow learners in ancient horse populations simply didn't make it long enough to reproduce. But here's the critical part. Horses learn bad things just as quickly as good things. Every interaction is a lesson, and the horse is always learning. Always. Which brings us to their memory. And this is where things get serious. Horses have the best recall of all domestic animals. When we say horses never forget, we're not being poetic. They have, essentially, infallible memory for both positive and negative experiences. You might be able to overcome a horse's reaction to a bad memory through training and patience, but you cannot erase that memory. It's filed permanently. Think about what that means for your approach. Every rough handling, every moment of pain or fear, every time you lose your temper, the horse remembers it all. Now, despite being flight animals with hair-trigger responses, horses have another remarkable trait. They're the most easily dominated domestic animals. And before that sounds harsh, understand what that really means. They accept leadership more readily than other species. Horses are herd animals with strong dominance hierarchies. In every group, there are leaders and followers. And horses are evolutionarily wired to look for confident leadership that keeps the group safe. They'll accept a human as their leader if you use appropriate methods. It's not about force or intimidation. It's about demonstrating calm, confident control. And here's a sad reality. Because horses are herd animals, a horse pastured alone is genuinely unhappy. They need companionship, though it doesn't have to be another horse. Many horses will happily accept a goat or other animal as a herd substitute. They're socially wired, and isolation goes against their fundamental nature. So how do horses actually communicate? They have sophisticated body language that many people completely miss because nobody teaches it. The key insight is this. When a horse's head is down, it's in its most vulnerable position, grazing or drinking. So when a horse lowers its head and makes chewing or lip-smacking motions, it's simulating eating and drinking to signal submission and trust. The lower the head, the stronger the mouth movements, the more submissive and trusting the horse is being. Conversely, head up signals, I'm thinking about flight. I want out of here. I'm alert to danger. This is why that relaxed posture works so well when you approach a horse. Weight shifted onto one leg rather than squared up on both feet. That's not a predatory stance. Avoiding direct staring. Predators stare at their prey with forward-focused eyes. Speaking casually, scratching at the withers, waiting for that moment when the horse lowers its head and exhales. That's the letdown, the moment when the horse decides you're safe. And here's a powerful technique that ties into everything. Because horses are flight animals, their survival depends entirely on their legs and their ability to run. Therefore, leadership is established by controlling movement. If you control where the horse's feet go, you control its mind and behavior. When you first meet a horse, gently move it in a quiet circle while talking to the owner. The horse thinks, this person is controlling where my feet are positioned, and submission follows naturally. It's not about dominance through force. It's about demonstrating spatial control that signals competence and leadership. One more fascinating piece. Horses are precocial animals. Within minutes of birth, a foal is standing. Within hours, it can run with the herd. Compare that to altricial species like puppies and kittens, who are born blind, deaf, and helpless. A foal is born with fully functional senses and immediate learning capacity. In fact, research shows that in those first minutes, hours, and days after birth, a foal's learning and imprinting capacity is the strongest it will ever be in its entire life. It has to be. Otherwise, the foal wouldn't survive.
So when you put it all together, you realize that horses aren't being difficult or stupid or stubborn. They're being exactly what millions of years of evolution designed them to be. Hypervigilant, fast learning, quick reacting, socially attuned prey animals with extraordinary senses and perfect memories. Every behavior that frustrates us makes perfect sense through the lens of survival on ancient grasslands, where hesitation meant death. The beautiful thing? Once you understand this, once you stop thinking like a predator and start communicating in ways that say, I'm safe, I'm calm, I'm competent, horses will partner with you in remarkable ways. That head lowering, that exhale, that moment of trust, it's not submission through fear. It's a choice the horse makes because you've demonstrated, through your body language and behavior, that you're worthy of that trust.